all that could be heard was the sound of the rain, the voices from the kids' television program that Maria was watching, and the engrossed Maria's cackling voice. In other words, what greeted them as they returned dumbfounded from that horrible, bizarre scene was the voice of Maria as she rolled around laughing at the television. Not knowing how to explain to Maria that her mother, Rosa, was dead, those who returned to the room couldn't manage any more than a suffocating silence. At first, Maria returned their stares with a dubious look. But when she realized that they weren't trying to blame her for anything, she ignored them and, again, immersed herself in the television program. At that store, the children wordlessly sat down on the sofa. Their minds were probably blank from their state of shock. Though they had all cried and mourned so much, now they just vaguely sat there, their faces expressionless. Only Cannon had returned to his usual calm expression. However, that probably didn't mean he had been able to wipe out the shock. Nothing was reflected in his eyes as he stared into the emptiness. Hideyoshi, fidgeting as he remembered that horrible scene, kept muttering, "Unbelievable. That can't be something of this world. It's the work of the devil." Every once in a while, he turned these into questions and bounced them off Nanjo. But Nanjo, in a calm, doctorly manner, kept repeating that nothing could be understood by only glancing at the scene. And that until the police arrived, he wouldn't know anything. However, Nanjo only appeared calm by comparison to Hideyoshi, who could not contain his agitation and fear. In fact, Nanjo had also received a huge shock, and his face was deathly pale. Maybe it was because of their attitudes that Natsuhi tried Maybe it was because of their attitudes that Natsuhi tried to rise to the challenge and take control. Natsuhi was apparently unchanged from her normal attitude, and she briskly gave directions.
私はお父様のところへ行ってきます。現時は急ぎ警察へ連絡を。
かしこまりました。
私も一緒させていただいていいかしら、夏日姉さん。クラウス兄さんがいなくなった以上、お父様の補佐は私の仕事だもの。その私が夏日姉さんに任せっきりで、ここでくつろいでいるわけにはいかないわ。
Oh boy. You know, my theory that Genji, Natsuhi, and Nanjo being involved, though it's obvious that it might be pointing to the direction that Ava could have been, partially responsible, it kind of would make sense if Ava were, slightly excited that she is benefiting from this tragedy. Like, she may not be involved directly, but she knows herself that this benefits her, because, come on, she's the next head of the family now. And George is still alive, so her and George are the next heads, so this kind of benefits Ava, in a way. Natsuhi was struck speechless by Ava's aggressive actions in a situation like this. It seemed that she was claiming that, with Klaus dead, the one to take responsibility should not be his wife, but herself, the next highly ranked in the family. Possibly, she was not happy that Natsuhi was ignoring her and handling matters herself in this extreme situation. Of course, even Ava's mind had been blank from the shock until just now. She only returned to herself after Natsuhi started giving orders. I don't know, like, I'm not really, looking that highly on Ava, because it kind of slightly seems that, she's a little bit excited by how, you know, she's now the next head. Natsuhi walked out without saying anything more. Ava followed behind her. Mere moments after they left, Kumasawa ran into the parlor. Since she wasn't the kind of person to run around, it would be normal to sense that something had happened. But since everyone had been stricken by that earlier shock, none of them took any notice of this trivial difference.
Natsuhi 姉さんならお父さんのところへ行ったで。すぐ戻ってくるやろ。どないしたんや、熊沢さん。
それが食堂に血が。
Everyone in the parlor turned to listen. Everyone thought the same thing. I hope I misheard that. Just like how any container has a limit to how much you can put in it, no one felt like they could accept any more tragedies beyond what had already happened. So they all thought it. I hope I misheard that.
なんやて？食堂？
朝食の準備に食堂に配膳に行ったら。
Like I said, only Kumasawa, Kinzo, and Maria don't know what happened in the shed. Well, Kinzo might know. But, oh god. I didn't think about how they would explain things to Kumasawa. The first to start running was George. His harsh footsteps jogged Hideyoshi and Nanjo to their senses, and they chased after him. Battler and the others followed. They flew into the dining hall one after another, but they didn't find any change that would have caused Kumasawa to go pale. To those who had viewed that gruesome scene in the storehouse, it was a bit of an anticlimax. However, Kumasawa, who had followed them, pointed it out. There really were some traces of blood on the floor. Compared to that terrible scene, it was not very dramatic. However, if you calmly thought about it, this definitely indicated the loss of a lot of blood.
ここにも血だまりがあるよ。これは一体。
だいぶ時間が経っているように見えますな。おそらく昨夜ここで殺されたんだと見ていいでしょう。そういうことになるんやろな。わしらは昨夜ずっと食堂で話し合いをしとった。そしてここに何者かが押し入ったに違いない。
父さんたちが打ち合わせを抜けて休んだのは何時だっけ？
昨夜の24時を少し過ぎたくらいの頃や。だからその後にと考えるんが妥当やろな。
マジかよ。勘弁してくれよ。お嬢様、しっかり。
ほら
もうさっきの倉庫でこの世の地獄ってやつを拝んじまったから、今さらこのくらいじゃ答えねえぜ。
そうかよ。よかったな。私は頭がどうにかなっちまいそうだぜ。ここは食堂だぜ。私は毎日ここで食事をして、学校のことをぼやいたり、宿題のことをぼやいたり。
You know, this is something weird to point out, but her mouth moving from slightly open to open and then going back to, slightly open, that's a little weird. Like, her mouth did not close throughout that entire line. I'm sorry, but come on, the mouth is not closing, and that's really, really fucking my head up right now.
親父に学校の成績の話をされたり、そういうところなんだぜ。
This is a serious scene, I know, but come on, what the fuck? I'm not saying that the art's bad or anything, no, the art's amazing, but at the same time, come on, who talks that, I can't even do it, I can't even show an example of what it looked like in real life. Okay, let me try one more time. Who talk? I closed my mouth. I can't, that's not possible, but this is a video game. This is an anime video game, and I'm questioning the, physics of an anime video game.
お嬢様、これ以上ここにいるのはよくありません。客間へ戻りましょ
う。俺の同感さ。秀吉おじさん、この部屋は多分警察にとって重要な意味があると思います。俺たちが踏み荒らしちまうのはまずいんじゃないですか。
Battler proposed this in a slightly powerful voice as, together with Cannon, he grabbed the pail and shaking Jessica's shoulders.
バトラさんの言う通りですな。この部屋にこれ以上好んで居続けることはありますまい。
Nanjo spoke while looking at the pale faces all around. Even though that horrible scene in the storehouse had felt like something not of this world, at least it was in a place far from here, a place we had been able to cut ourselves off and run away from, which had helped everyone to keep on going. However, this dining hall was different. It was in the mansion's main wing. And as Jessica has said, it was supposed to be one of the more relaxing places within the mansion. It was the same place where all of the relatives had enjoyed lunch and dinner yesterday. The shock of seeing this place smeared with blood reminded us of that horrible spectacle in the storehouse, and forced us to accept that we really hadn't been able to run away from the scene of that tragedy.
わしも同感や。この部屋には犯人の痕跡が残ってるかもわからんしな。素人のわしらがかき回すべきとちゃうで。はよ出るんや。はよはよ。
Hideyoshi also understood the meaning of what Battler had said, and pushed everyone to hurry out of the dining hall. The way we were then, looking at that blood any longer would have been too harsh. Nobody would have guessed his words. Everyone raced each other out of the dining hall, almost as though the last person in the room would be trapped in there, all alone. Once in the hallway, we lent a shoulder to Kumasawa, who was leaning against the wall still trembling, and we all headed back to the parlor together. Then, Genji returned.
おお、源氏さん。警察に連絡はつきましたか？
それが申し訳ございません。
Not surprised.
無線機の故障か、それ以外の理由によるものかわかりませんが。
Beckoning.
なんや、警察に連絡がつかんのか。電話も無線もどっちもダメなんか。
申し訳ございません。月曜の朝に船が来ることになっていますので、その船の通信機を借りることができると思います。
この島には船はないんか。新島の警察署までちょっくら行ってくることはできんのか。
秀吉さん、この天気では無理だ。少なくとも台風が通り過ぎるまではどうにもなりません。
クラウス様のボートは今修理中で島にございません。ですので月曜の船を待つほかないかと。
そんなアホな話があるか。6人も死んだんやで。そして電話も無線も通じず船もない。台風が過ぎて船が来るまで、つまり明日の朝までわしらは警察にも連絡できず、この島におれっちゅうことなんか。
ってことはつまり俺たちだけじゃなくおじさんたちを殺した犯人もこの島から出られず足止めってことだな。
Here we go.
そういうことになるね。みんなを殺した犯人はまだこの島にいる。
親父たちを殺した奴はこの島から逃げ出せずまだ潜んでやがるってことかよ。くそくそくそくそ、見つけ出してやるぜ。警察になんか引き渡すもんか。私がこの手でやっ先にしてやる。
Maria had finally realized that something was odd in the parlor. Or, rather than noticing something odd, it was probably better to say that she felt unhappy and neglected since everyone was getting so excited about something only she didn't know about.
シシカお姉ちゃん、誰か死んじゃったの？
The way she spoke was completely calm. Just as though she was talking about the characters in the TV drama, as though it didn't affect her at all. Jessica probably didn't like that. As though trying to say, can't you tell just by looking at me? Overwhelmed with grief? She flared up against Maria.
死んじまったぜ。みんな私の親父もパトラの父さんと母さんも幸田さんもシャノンも、そしてマリアの母さんも。
よすんなジェシカちゃん。悲しいのは君だけじゃない。
マリアさん、ショックだろうが聞いてください。
This is probably the best person to talk with Maria.
あなたのお母さんがな、死んでしまいました。
ママが死んじゃった？
ああ、誰かに殺されちまった。悲しいだろうがよ。 心をしっかり。
何人死んじゃった？
Oh fuck! Wait, oh my god! Maria? Maria? Maria. Maria is... oh no. Okay. This is not the reaction I was expecting, actually. I'm freezing up right now. I cannot process how Maria's reacting. Like, is this gonna lead up to something? Is this gonna lead up to a sad scene, or are we leading up to, a totally different sort of scene?
6人だぜ6人だくそあんな残酷なことしやがって踊ってもんがあるだろうがよ人間ならよ誰だか知らねえが犯人は人間じゃねえぜ血の色が赤いわけがねえ
Oh, here we go.
犯人は人間じゃない。鍵が選んだ生贄なだけ。
おい、マリオ、今、なんて言った？
Maria had just said something. But since the words were so remotely separated from the flow and context of the conversation, for a second, I couldn't understand them. As I was about to ask her to repeat it, I was shocked by the sudden sound of Aunt Natsuhi's loud voice coming from the entrance to the parlor. It looked like Aunt Natsuhi and Auntie Ava had returned from their trip to see grandfather.
無線でも連絡できない？こんな時に使えなくて何のための防災無線ですか？
申し訳ございません。毎年保守点検はさせているはずなのですが。
ほら、光をチカチカさせるみたいな船舶信号ってあるじゃない？そういうので向こうの島に連絡することはできないのかしら？
そのような設備はございません。
What about a flare gun?
申し訳ございません。
Wait, would a flare gun work in a storm? Just then, Kumasawa came, pushing a serving cart loaded with breakfast. Since there was no way we would be able to eat in the dining hall, Hiyoshi had ordered her to bring it to the parlor.
なぜ朝食をこちらに？
ああ、夏日さん、それは後で話す。それよりエヴァ、お父さんはどうなんや？
ご一緒でないところを見ると、このような事態になっても部屋から出ませんか？
いないわ。
Oh.
部屋は空っぽだったのよ。
Why did I hear a liquid sound? Oh, wait, whenever someone disappears... Oh, interesting. Huh. So whenever someone disappears, they turn gray, and they explain how they disappeared. Interesting. Ushimiya Kinzo. I didn't know that in the previous episode, I'm sorry. Disappeared from his study unnoticed. Kinzo's study has everything from a bed to a toilet to a bathtub, so it is extremely rare for him to go outside. However, he does sometimes go out for a walk on a whim without telling anybody, which on several occasions has led to a huge uproar throughout the house. He usually comes back as soon as he gets hungry. Usually. He wouldn't be second Twilight. I'm sorry, I had to say it. He would be second Twilight because he's not anyone who is close to someone else. Or maybe he is close to finding the gold, and someone else who is also close to finding the gold will be killed as well. If the two who are close means the two who are the closest to finding the truth. But that's what it means. Or the other meaning of the two who are close get torn apart by one of them getting killed. Or both of them getting killed. It's very vague. The second Twilight is very vague.
なんやて
The Witch of the Painting.
こんな時にどこ行ったんや
親方様が書斎を出られたというのですか。
そうです。私も驚いています。いつの間に部屋を出たのやら。あなたたちに心当たりはないのですか？
Natsuhi looked at Genji and Canon as she said this. She probably thought that the servants permitted the one-winged eagle, who served directly under him, would know of a place he might go. However, it seemed to be the other way around. Their faces made it clear that those who knew Kinzo best realized even more than anyone else how impossible it was for him to leave his room.
僕たちにも見当がつきません。
ご存知の通り、親方様はあの書斎の中にお休みの場所からご不浄まで全てを設けさせました。親方様があの部屋をお出になることなどよっぽどのことがない限り考えられません。
Very suspicious, Kinzo.
となるとなんやそのよっぽどのことがあったって考えるのが自然だっちゅうことになるんか。
まだそうと決まったわけではありません。とにかく気まぐれな方ですから、現状をご存知なくお一人で散歩をされている可能性もあります。仮にそうだとしたら、一刻も早く現状をお知らせしてご指示を仰がねばなりません。そうね、考えたくはないけど、お父様の身に何かあったのかもしれないしね。
Ava?
そのような不吉なことは考えたくもありません。
No one had seen Kinzo since the 6 horrible corpses had been found. On top of that, the phones were broken. The radio wouldn't reach anyone, and there was no way to contact the police. It looked like the typhoon would meet tomorrow, and a boat would come. But until then, no one could rely on anyone outside the island, nor they could escape the island. Everyone had lost their composure at the extremely sudden tragedy. A heavy silence and a sense of impatience. Even though they needed to do something, they couldn't think of anything. Some of them became irritated, while others merely held their heads in their hands. But not one of them could explain what was occurring on this island of Rokunjima. After that, we sat in the parlor and wordlessly chewed through the breakfast that Kumasawa-san had made. Of course, this was right after something like that had happened. No one had any appetite. However, we realized that not eating... would weaken our bodies. It would also be rude to Kumasawa-san, who had made the breakfast. Kumasawa-san had taken the tasteful western vegetables, one that Goda-san had probably special ordered for the purpose of some extravagantly fancy dish, and cooked them in the Japanese style, making them turn an unpleasant color. As to what Goto-san had been planning to cook with those ingredients, right then, I couldn't even imagine it. If I did think about it, I would be reminded of the way Goto-san had died, and the inside of my mouth would be filled with a sour taste. For the time being, everyone pretended to eat, but there was no hope of anyone making any headway into the meal. Then, everyone was brought up to speed on the current situation. First off, that Uncle Klaus, my dad, Kirie-san, Auntie Rosa, Goto-san, and Shan-chan had been found in the Rose Garden storehouse as cruelly mutilated corpses. And that despite that, we were unable to use phones or radio, and still couldn't contact the police. So until the typhoon passed, there was nothing we could do. Furthermore, grandfather, who we had hoped might be able to show a little leadership in this kind of situation, had disappeared at some point. Goto-san hadn't made breakfast, so grandfather's stomach must have been empty. And if he had just been taking a casual walk, by now he should have been stopping back to whine about how hungry he was. And yet, he hadn't appeared. There was more than a small chance that he had become caught up in the earlier crime. Aunt Natsuhi and Auntie Ava had said that, on their return trip from going to see Kinzo, they had called out to him on every floor, looking for him, but were not able to find him. If you think about the timing of it all, it was probably best to think that he had been caught up in the crime. If the culprit had taken the trouble up, I'm gonna take a breather for a second. I was so good for the first 20 minutes, I'm sorry everyone. If the culprit had taken the trouble to move the bodies of Dad and the rest, who we figured had been killed in the dining hall, all the way to the storehouse, then maybe they had already killed grandfather, moved his body to some strange location, and we had simply not found it yet. No one actually said it, but this theory seemed extremely convincing.
私たちはお屋敷の戸締まりを確認してきます。お父様も念入りに探さなければなりません。子供たちはこの部屋を出ないように。エヴァさんと秀吉さんは申し訳ありませんが、ここで子供たちと一緒にいてください。南條先生もお願いいたします。
わかりました。ここでお待ちしています。
Aunt Natsuhi led the servants, Genji-san, Kumasawa-san, and Kanekun, out of the parlor. All that was left was Auntie Ava, Uncle Hideyoshi, Dr. Nanjo, and the four of us children, for a total of 7 people.
みんなで仲良くテレビでも見て待ってよな。しかし日曜日の午前中はろくな番組やっとれへんな。
Uncle Hideyoshi tried to stir up this gloomy atmosphere, acting cheerfully.
ろくな番組見る見る。
お、そうか。マリアちゃんはテレビ見るか。じゃあおじさんと一緒に見ような。
Maria was the only one who played along. Even though Maria had been told of her mother's death, she didn't show the slightest flicker in her emotions. Was 9 really this young in age? No one was feeling the slightest bit like joining in, and they each sank into their sofas and let their minds go blank.
兄貴、聞いていいか？
なんだい？
さっき倉庫で兄貴はシャノンちゃんの指輪の話をしたよな。あれ送ったのは兄貴か？
George Niki didn't answer, but he hung his head and closed both of his eyes. There could be no clear response.
よせよバトラー、少しは察しろよ。
だな、悪いことを聞いたぜ。
そうさ。
Well dead. BP.
僕だよ。彼女に昨べ求婚したんだ。その時指輪を渡した。明日になったらそれを好きな指にはめて返事としてくれって。気ざったらしいことを言ってね。
And that ring had been on the ring finger of Shannon Chan's left hand.
私さ、数年前からシャドウに相談を受けてたぜ。ジョージ兄さんのことでさ。
なんて言ってたのかな。
シャノンは嘘をつくのが下手だったからよ。ジョージ兄さんのことを言ってるのはすぐにバレバレでさ。自分は使用人の身分だけど親しくしてもいいのだろうかとか、男の人の好きそうなものは何かとか、どういう服を着たら喜ぶかとか、そんなことをいろいろとさ。なんつうのか、まあ焼けたぜ。
それが婚約指輪を渡されて、そこでおしまいかよ。
価値観は人それぞれだけどよ、男から求婚されるってのはある意味人生の到達点なんだと思うんだよ。だからきっと昨夜のシャノンは心の底から、いや生まれてから今までの中で一番幸せだったと思うぜ。
George Niki, without raising his head, sighed deeply. Or maybe tears had risen to his eyes.
シャノンは昨べゲストハウスの当番だったらしいんだ。でもシャノンは僕と一緒にゲストハウスに帰るのを恥ずかしがってお屋敷に行ってしまった。
シャノンの気持ちを察しろよ。婚約指輪をもらえばどんなに予告されてたって普通は舞い上がっちまって頭は真っ白になっちまうぜ。気恥ずかしくて仕方なかったんだろうよ。
それでシャノンは当番でないはずのお屋敷へ行き、事件に巻き込まれてしまった。僕があの日あの場所で指輪なんか渡さなければシャノンはサヨは事件に巻き込まれなかったんだ。
兄貴、それだけは違うぜ。断じて違う。だからそれ以上泣くんじゃね
え。バトラー君、そっとしてあげなさい。
After those words from Auntie Ava, I stopped talking to him. Misplaced words of comfort might actually hurt him. Jessica sat down next to Aniki and quietly put her arm around him. Maybe only Jessica, who had known about Aniki and Shannon's love since the beginning, and who had been discussing that relationship with Shannon, could comfort Aniki now. I went over to Auntie Ava and sat down on the opposite sofa.
バトラー君は強いわね。もうだいぶしっかりしているように見えるわよ。
まあほら、愛の深さが傷の深さじゃないっすか。俺は別にあんなクソ親父同士の方が知ったことじゃないし、桐江さんは気の毒ですが、まあ本当の親ってわけじゃないですしね。
Aw, Trish. My joke was right. And she is. No, stop. I'm trying to put comedy to make myself feel better, you know, after the scene with George. God damn it, that... Okay, George is... everything about George and Shannon, that's just... That really hurt. That really hurts. Why did she... I knew Shannon was going to die, but god damn it, it hurts. Any scene with George hurts, so... Yeah, maybe putting in a little bit of comedy is terrible of me, but at the same time, come on. Though, I don't know how comedic it is about, you know, making jokes about Kirei being Balor's mom. Though, when you look at the character profiles, it would make sense, though. Rudolf, Kirei, they've known each other for a considerable amount of time before Asu's death. Doesn't that ring any bells? That kind of rings any bells that could state Balor could be technically, you know, Kirei's son. Though, of course, that's just a baseless theory, but I have a sinking feeling that could be what's going on.
あら、という割にはさっきすっごく大泣きしてたわよ。
まあ育ての親に対する恩はあのくらい泣けば OK かと思いまして。
Balor doesn't want to admit that he kind of liked Rudolph. Even though Rudolph kind of did cheat on his mom at the same time, it kind of seems that Balor still has some feelings for him.
そのあたりの切り替えの速さやドライなあたりは本当にルドルフ譲りね。あの子は昔から激しく喜んだり悲しんだり怒ったりしたけれど、すぐにケロリと平静を取り戻したわ。
そんなことはないっすよ。俺だってまだまだ心のショックから立ち直れちゃいません。 ただ俺がみんなと違うのは、それによってどういう感情が生み出されるかってことだと思います。
どういうこと？
Suspicion. I was acting much calmer than George Niki and Jessica were. That wasn't because my sadness was less intense and I'd already swung back to normal. It was because my sadness had been gradually replaced by a different emotion.
悲しいっていうよりは腹立たしいって気持ちなんすよ。どこのドイツがこんなことをしやがったのか。清子っつらに一発お見舞いしてやらないことには腹の虫が収まらねえんです。
That was what I really wanted to do. It was like I couldn't allow myself to just sit here, overwhelmed with sadness and hugging my knees.
親父たちが殺されて以降、この島は台風に包まれたままです。つまりこれだけの上等を決めてくれやがった野郎はまだこの島の中にいるってことです。
そういうことになるわね。今も暗い森のどこかに身を潜めているのかしら。
I felt like I had a very similar conversation with Kirie-san the night before. That's right. After the letter from the person who claimed to be Beatrice appeared at the dinner table last night, we had talked about whether or not a 19th person actually exists.
エヴァおばさん、この殺人、昨夜のベアトリーチェの手紙と何か関連があるんでしょうかね。
Come on. 6 people? As soon as Maria said that, that's definitely a key in point. It has to do with the letter.
ああ、例の？
Because the letter is connected to the epitaph.
さあ、どうかしらね。あの手紙はお父様が遺産問題に絡みたくて出した怪文書という見方で兄弟は一致したんだけれども、それと今朝の事件に関係があるかは今の段階では分かりかねるわね。
あの手紙、本当にベアトリーチェなんて魔女がマリアに渡したんすかね。
まさか。全部お父様の仕組んだ茶番でしょ。シャノンちゃんあたりに肖像画のドレスを着させてマリアちゃんを騙したんでしょ。お父様らしい手の込みすぎたいたずらだと思うけど。
ゆうべキリエさんとベアトリーチェは実在するんだろうかって話をしたんですけど、キリエさんも俺たち18人の中にベアトリーチェがいるだろうと言ってましたね。
そんなの当然じゃない。この島には私たちしかいないのよ。なら私たちの中の誰かがベアトリーチェを語ったに決まってるじゃない。
この島には俺たち以外はいないですか。
当然でしょ。私たち以外の誰がここにいるっていうの？この島には私たちしかいない。18人しかいない。ならベアトリーチェを語るのも18人の中の誰かしかいないじゃない。
Kirie-san had denied that there was a 19th person by flipping over the chessboard. Even though Auntie Ava hadn't constructed an argument that complicated, her opinion at least was the same. Except, if that is the case, our situation starts to look very ugly. At the time of Beatrice's letter, we were able to dismiss the matter as just someone's prank. However, if we deny the existence of a 19th person at this point, matters are not so jovial. In other words,
19人目がいないなら親父たちを殺した犯人も18人の中にいるってことになっちまうじゃないですか。つまり今この屋敷にいる誰かが殺したってことになる。
Auntie Ava smiled meaningfully. It looked like Auntie thought this conclusion should have been obvious from the very beginning.
犯人は倉庫の中に6人の遺体を運び込んだわ。でもよく倉庫の中に運び込めたわよね。あのシャッターは常に閉められていて施錠されていたそうよ。つまり倉庫内に運び込むにはシャッターの施錠を開ける必要があった。わかる？
たまたまその日シャッターが開けっぱなしになってた可能性は？
使用人たちは常に閉めていると言ってたわ。つまり鍵を使用人室から持ち出さなくては倉庫は絶対に開けられない。
鍵は使用人室の一つしかないんすかね。
源氏さんはそうだと言ってるわ。ということは犯人はそのたった一つの倉庫の鍵のありかを知っていて持ち出した。さっきカノン君が使用人室に鍵を戻すところを見たわ。壁にびっしりと鍵がかけられていて、とても素人にはどこに何がかけてあるのかわからなかった。犯人はその中から倉庫の鍵を見事選び出したのよ。しかも札も何もついていない鍵を手にしてバラ庭園裏にある倉庫の鍵だと理解した。ついでに言うと倉庫の場所すら理解していた。もっとはっきり断言するわ。犯人は使用人室の内部にも熟知している。
Her argument was extremely plain and clear. If the bodies had been thrown somewhere in the bushes of the rose garden, no explanation would have been necessary. However, the one key to the storehouse was in the servant room, and stored with a large group of other keys, such that a novice would not be able to tell them apart. This meant that the culprit was someone who was used to going in and out of the servant room, and knew well where the key was. The family didn't normally go into the servant room, which meant that.
ってことは使用人の誰かが犯人。
If only it was that simple. I know that. Okay, it's not that I actually know, but I theorize that a servant could have helped, but I'm on the party of not pushing the blame to a servant just yet. I'm not pushing any blame onto a servant. I am thinking it could have been a servant who helped, but the mastermind, I'm gonna say it, I think the mastermind is still Kinzo. I'm betting it now. Well, not betting it, but I'm theorizing, not betting. I might be wrong, but I'm theorizing Kinzo is the mastermind. Of course, I won't get this answer until maybe the answer arc, since we're still in the question arcs at the very beginning, so I might not be correct with my choice of possible culprit, but right now, I'm leaning towards the culprit actually truly being Kinzo. Or, hold on. Someone could also be faking their death. Now that brings up a whole new can of worms. Someone could be faking their death. If someone's faking their death, that leads to a whole new series of theories if I am considering the thought of someone faking a death. That would make sense, though. It would make sense. Someone faked their death. Oh man, I'm getting really excited.
悪いけどそれ以上はおばさんも言えないわよ。でも一つだけ教えられることがあるわ。
なんすか？
犯人たちは複数で、そして十分な武装をしていたと考えられるわ。だってそうでしょ？食堂にいた兄さんたち4人を一度に襲って殺し、合計6人分の遺体をようようバラ庭園の向こうの倉庫まで運んで悪趣味な化粧と落書きを施している。
Disgusting makeup.
これだけのことを単独犯で行えるはずもないでしょう。
It was impossible. It might not have been if a single person spent enough time on it, but that would have taken ages. It was probably best to think that a significant number of people had been part of it.
ってことはエヴァおばさんは使用人の人たちがみんなグルだろって言ってんすか？
静かになさいな。憶測で言っちゃ悪いわよ。それにもし本当にそうだったらどうするつもり？彼らは私たちを生かして返さないでしょうね。しかも兄さんたち4人をやすやすと殺した相手なのよ。今この部屋に残っていてまともに戦えそうな人間はうちの家族の3人にせいぜいバトラ君で4人ってところ。状況は昨晩と何も変わらない。つまり犯人にとって残る私たちを皆殺しにするなんて簡単なことなのよ。
I had been playing detective with Auntie Rosa out of a desire to expose the person who had killed Dad and the rest before the police did. If I could manage to skillfully penetrate the culprit's identity, I wanted to stick the evidence in their face. I had gotten it into my head that if I did that, the culprit would give up and surrender, just like in one of those detective movies. However, the culprit only surrenders there because they are in a situation where resisting would be futile. The culprits behind these incidents on this island were far from helpless, and might even be able to massacre all the remaining people on the island. And on top of that, this island was like a giant locked room, cut off from the outside world by the typhoon. So they had the full day until tomorrow to kill, scheme, and cover up their handiwork. In short, we weren't in the kind of safe atmosphere where we could entertain ourselves by playing detective. On the contrary, we were at a stage where we had to be scared stiff. Since playing detective might displease the culprits and cause them to repeat another mass murder.
あくまでも可能性の問題よ。でも私は使用人の人たちをまだ信用できないのね。それに私は使用人だけを疑ってるわけじゃないわ。さらに黒幕がいるかもしれないと思ってるわよ。
Is Ava gonna stay what I'm thinking?
黒幕？どうしてですか？
勘よ。使用人は書いて字のごとし、誰かに使用されて手足となる存在よ。殺されたのは後宮家の親族ばかり。 その結果で利害が発生する人間が関わるのは当然。
This was also plain and clear. The Ushiramiya family were currently right in the middle of discussing how to distribute the inheritance if grandfather died. If this followed the formulaic plot used to death by many if this used the formulaic plot used to death by many classic mystery novels, it would definitely be a crime by someone with ties to the Ushiramiya family and who was entangled in the inheritance problem. Auntie had probably also read a few books in that genre. Her theory did have a few one-sided conclusions to it, but it was a run-of-the-mill idea that anyone would surely hit upon. I think anyone would have suspected the servants, even if their logic was different. Especially the talk revolving around the key to the shutter. That was enough to make it easy to suspect strongly that one of the servants was involved in the case.
だからなぜか気に入らねえんすよね。
気に入らないって？何の話？
あ、いやいや、こっちの話っす。
I dodged the question by joking, but I couldn't wipe out the sense of unease I felt inside me. Because the reasoning we had arrived at was altogether too simple. Reasoning that anyone could arrive at. And I just couldn't accept that. If I tried flipping over the chessboard, like I had learned from Kirie-san, that was exactly why it was impossible for the servants to be the culprits. If the servants had really been the culprits, they would have hidden the bodies in a place that was tied to themselves. Certainly not the Rose Garden storehouse of all places, whose key they themselves controlled. The police would probably immediately pursue whoever had been in control of that key. That would create a danger for exposure. If we were to assume that they were the culprits, they had no reason to carry the bodies into the storehouse. Did they expect us to think that? And so put them in the storehouse deliberately? No, that definitely didn't make sense. When the police come and inspect the site, all kinds of things will probably become clear. No matter how deeply careful the culprits were in carrying out the murder, some kind of traces will definitely be found. So in summary, they have everything to lose and nothing to gain. If you think about it this way, and look at the game from the culprit side, it feels like there's no point in advertising the location of the corpses. If the bodies were found, a report would be sent to the police. The remaining people would become more cautious. They could start looking for who was responsible. Anyway, none of these things would make the culprits feel any more comfortable. Just like the words of the main character's mother in a novel I read recently called Hirashi no Nakukora ni. A mystery story has 4 parts: introduction, development, turn, and conclusion. And so, to commit the perfect crime, it is essential to eliminate the introduction. Tatagarashi. Right now, no one knew where grandfather was. We didn't know whether he had already become a victim, or if he was one of the culprits. But this state of confusion had to be beneficial to whoever did this. By blatantly advertising the bodies to us and declaring, "Hey, there's a murder case going on!" The culprit had absolutely nothing to gain. Right. That was where we could flip over the chessboard. So, this blatant advertisement of the bodies was itself the culprit's goal. So, it may well be that, to the culprit, having the 6 corpses be present there meant more than the deaths themselves. In other words, the culprit wanted to display these murders. To who? To us. It was a message. The culprit was trying to shove something in our faces. I didn't know what it could be. I didn't know what that could be. At the current time, none of us could grasp anything from this vulgar mass murder except malice. Malice towards everyone, perhaps. Each one of the survivors had some kind of connection to one of the 6 who had been killed. Uncle Klaus's death brought sorrow to Jessica's family. The deaths of Dad and Kyrie-san brought sorrow to me, while Auntie Rosa's death brought sorrow to Maria. Goda-san's death probably dealt a lot of shock to his fellow servants. And Shannon-chan's death brought grief to George Nikki, who had proposed to her, and to Kanekun, who had loved her like an older sister. Everyone now on this island had received an equal amount of sadness. What about Ava and Hideyoshi? Auntie Ava had claimed that the servants were definitely in cahoots. But then, how could you explain the deaths of Goda-san and Shannon-chan? And by this argument, the grief caused by the 6 deaths hit everyone but Auntie Ava and Uncle Hideyoshi. It was very possible to doubt Auntie Ava herself, who was acting like she was outside the net of suspicion, and who might have been trying to point that suspicion at the servants. In the first place, she had managed to avoid suspicion and place it on the servants with that argument about the key to the shutter. But if you looked at it from a perspective of motive, about who would gain something from these murders, Auntie Ava's name floated to the top of the list. Scar in the score.
Butler 君が何を考えてるか、おばさんわかるわよ。
嫌だな。内緒にしててくださいよ。あんなことやこんなことで頭をいっぱいにしてたなんて。
私がこの殺人で一番得をする。どうせ疑われるだろうから先に自己申告しておくわ。
I had tried to dodge this conversation by joking around, but it looked like it hadn't worked.
遺産は兄弟の数で分割する。でも今や4兄弟は私一人。後ろ宮家の全財産は全て私のものになるの。
秀吉おじさんが聞いたら予算買えばシャレにならんっていうところっすね。
ごめんね。どう取り繕ったってどうせ疑われるだろうからふざけただけよ。だからこの殺人は私の立場から見れば私を疑わせるためのものではないかと思ってるの。困ったことに昨べのアリバイは弱いわ。
聞かせてもらってもいいっすか。昨べのことを。
バトラ君たちも知っている通り、兄弟が遺産をどう食いちぎり合うかという話し合いは深夜まで続いたわ。 でも何時まで続いたかは知らない。私と主人は朝が早かったからね。もう眠くて24時を過ぎたあたりで抜けさせてもらったの。そしてゲストハウスに戻って休んだわ。
それを秀吉おじさん以外の誰かに証明できるっすか？いやいや、別にエヴァおばさんを疑ってるわけじゃないっすよ。
I'm a little suspicious of Auntie Rosa. Auntie Ava, fuck. Rosa's dead. Though, if you go from the point of view of someone might have faked their death, that would make sense. You know, the thought of someone faking their death definitely leaves some room for, you know... It definitely leaves room for, you know, a lot more theories because any one of them could have been faking their death.
あら、どうだか。
And I say could have been because I have no proof that any of them could have faked their death. But it is kind of possible. It would be possible. It's not impossible. So it's possible that one of them faked their death.
証明になるかわからないけれど、ゲストハウスに戻ってきた時、源氏さんに出迎えを受けてタオルはいるかと聞かれたわ。だから私たちがゲストハウスに戻ってきた時間は24時過ぎだと証明してくれると思うわよ。もっとも私の仮説通り使用人たちもグルなのだとしたらこんなのアリバイにならないけどね。
確かにそうっすね。ってことは俺今支配人と推理ごっこをしてるってことになるんすか？
でも私の名誉のために言わせてもらうけど、遺産目当てだったならこんな変な殺人はしないわよ。だって遺産相続権を喪失させるだけならどんな死に方だって構わない。むしろ事故死に見せかけた方がスマートでしょ。使用人たちを抱き込んで周到に計画していたならなおさらそうするでしょうよ。
確かにそうっすね。営利で人を殺すならそれは常に殺人に見せるべきではない。
そういうことよ。だからおばさんは今からとてもブルーな気持ちなわけ。警察には黒幕扱いされて散々調べられるでしょうね。やだやだ。
Auntie Ava shrugged with a bitter smile. Just like it was easy to think of the servants as suspicious, it was also very easy to think of Auntie Ava as suspicious. So, if we flip over the chessboard, did that mean it was impossible for the culprit to be the easily doubtable Auntie Ava? However, if that logic could pass so easily, then motive wouldn't count for anything. No, that can't be right. Knowing the motive should be a big clue towards knowing the culprit. That is why murderers throughout history have tried to ensure their motive will not be found out by skillfully complicating the incidents. I don't know. Every time I flip over the chessboard, it keeps flipping from back to front and back to front. Were my thoughts closing in on the truth? Or... was I getting further away? Oh, man. Okay. So, Ava does benefit the most from this, but she's not the culprit. I don't think Ava's the culprit. So, with all things considered, the last person who could be the mastermind would probably have to be either Natsuhi or, Kinzo. Though if I go from the approach that someone could be faking their death, that will leave up to, 5 of the 6 being responsible. I don't think Shannon's responsible, so she might be the innocent one murdered. But the other 5, if one of them or 2 of them were faking their deaths, that would definitely, make some sense if they were faking their death. Though that would have been really hard to do, it's still plausible. It's still very plausible that someone could have faked their death. If I'm going from the fake death approach, it could be Klaus and Goda working together because why would Goda work alone? Why would Goda work alone? Or it could be Rosa with the help of one of the servants. Kumasawa. Kumasawa and Rosa could be working cahoots as well. Those are really, those could be workable theories. Kinzo, Genji, Nanjo, they would benefit slightly. Well, Kinzo to, support his crazy mind as he's dying. Rosa and Kumasawa because Rosa needs the money. And Klaus and Goda, and they need the money as well. That would leave Rudolf as, an innocent person, though. I mean, would Rudolf be innocent? He seems to be the only one that knew of his upcoming death, though. He was able to warn Kyrie and Balor. So, if I flip the chessboard like Balor says, tell your family that you're about to die. That could be a flag in itself, but it could also be on purpose. To either send off a message to, watch out. So that, they won't get caught up in his scheme. That could be the case. That's why he told Kyrie and Balor, just so that they could watch their backs. Or, he told them because... Well, no, wait a second. That would make sense, so Rudolph could also be very suspicious of what's going on, but if Rudolph knew there, could be killings that night, it would make sense as to why he gave a warning to Kyrie and Balor that people might die that night. Though, of course, Kyrie is also dead, so it's either that, if I'm going from the Rudolph culprit theory that I'm thinking, because Rudolph could very well also be a possible culprit because of some weird, the weirdness that went on when he talked with Balor and Kyrie. Kyrie went after him. Kyrie could be working in cahoot with, Rudolph. Even though I wouldn't like to think that Kyrie could be, a culprit, she is the silent person. She is being quite silent at the family conferences, and even though she might be the nice one, she might be playing up an act. So, Rudolph is not innocent, and that puts Kyrie into a suspect as well, working with Rudolph. Because I'm going with the theory of it's not an individual, but it's someone working. So, the people who are not in the side of fake their death would be Kinzo, Genji, and Nanjo. With the people who could fake their death being Klaus and Goda, with Rosa and Kumasawa also being suspects as well. Because, okay, I am going to complete theory time, alright. So, why would Kumasawa work with Rosa? Well, this is a stretch, but in the beginning of the game, Rosa gave Kumasawa some medicine. What if that wasn't medicine for her back, but some sort of, drug that would stop the breathing of someone, make someone seem like they're dead? I'm going through, some Romeo and Juliet bullcrap with the, thing that Juliet took. But no, that could make sense. Rosa gave Kumasawa that sort of thing so that she could, pretend like she's dead after, putting some, fake makeup on her face to make it look like she was murdered after she and Kumasawa carried out the initial murders. Well, why would Kumasawa betray her fellow servants? That's why my theory might fall apart with Rosa and Kumasawa being, culprits. Like, I'm trying to flip the chessboard to see how each and every one of them could have carried out the murder, and so far, Klaus and Goda, even though I'm not fully undecided as to how they carry things out, they're definitely, if I'm going from the fake death approach, because, well, I'm doing the fake death approach because, you know what? Anything can happen in Rikishi's work, so I'm gonna say there could be a fake death at work, for which the people I'm gonna be the most suspicious of would have to be, the most suspicious I am is Klaus and Goda, even though, Kinzo, Nanjo, and Genji are also number 2. Number 3 would be Rudolf and Kyrie, with them almost getting up to number 2 into my list of maybe they're the real culprits. Because the thing that Rudolf did, if I'm going from the fake death approach, that heads up to them could have been assigned to Kyrie saying, alright, this is the first part of the plan, we weren't battlers, so let's go carry out our plan. And Balor's like, what? Huh? Like, that would make sense. Like, if they truly care about Balor, they might give him a heads up that, you know, try to figure out our mystery Balor so that maybe you either, join us or, well, get killed by us. Like, that falls apart when they, you know, have to, you know, tell Balor they're gonna kill people. Like, how's Balor gonna react? So that's why I'm a little bit less hesitant to believe that it might be Rudolf and Kyrie. So on the top of my list will have to be Klaus and Goda. But if the fake death approach is not going on, I'm gonna have to be simple-minded and say Kinzo's behind it. Just to prove his crazy theories about the witch. And of course, when Maria got that umbrella, she might have been drugged. I am going wild with my theories. Like, I should continue on with the game before I do any more theories, but those are my current theories right now. Because when you think about it, the fake death scenario could be plausible. It could be plausible, the fake death scenario. And, alright, hold up 1 second. Because, in Higurashi, Takano pulled a fake death. So, Umineko could be another story where a few characters fake their deaths. But yeah, Shannon, face partially covered. Goda, face almost completely covered. So if they got body doubles with similar body types and faces, that could easily lead to a possibility that someone could have been faking their deaths. So I'm gonna get off of theory time because I am going way too far with my theories, and I've not even written these down. Like, I've not written these internal theories down. I'm just saying what I'm thinking as I'm talking. I'm just saying what I'm thinking as I'm talking, so my theories may not be, you know, fully developed yet, but if I go from the mindset of the fake death scenario, that could be, you know, something that could be going on, which makes Klaus and Goda my #1 suspects. Yeah, Klaus and Goda are my basically #1 suspects in this. They're my #1. Like, I don't think there's anyone else who could be #1 than Klaus and Goda, other than Kinzo, Nanjo, and Genji. The other two, though, are just fun theories to think of. Like, it's fun to think that it could be the others, but it's most likely not going to be them. Now, my theories are completely going to be wrong if different people die in each world, so who knows? If different people die in each world, my theory totally gets shattered, so yeah. My theory totally gets shattered if different people each time get killed. Auntie Ava didn't want to talk any more than that, so I headed to the window, folding my arms, so that I could cool my head a little. As I looked over to the parlor, I saw George and Iki and the others gathered, talking. It looks like they were talking about the magic circle that had been painted onto the shutter. As Uncle Hideyoshi thought back to that time, he started drawing the shape in the margins of Maria's notebook. Yes, Maria is second only to grandfather in knowledge of the occult, so she might understand what it meant.
多分こんな感じだったと思うで。十字架をアレンジしたみたいなマークが書かれとったんや。そしてこんな感じで外周の円を取り囲むように妙な文字がびっしり書き込まれていて、十字架の上下左右の辺とその四隅にも何か書かれていたんや。アルファベットとかそういうのとちゃうで。あれはよく言う古代文字とかいうやつや。
あと円周部の頂点に小さなマークがありましたな。小さな丸を5つ十字状に並べ、それぞれを直線で結んだようなマークでした。
ああ、確かにそんなのも書いてあったで。図形的には間違いなくこれや。細かい文字はわからんが配列はほぼ同じや。
Everyone was staring down at the shape, so I stared down at it too. From what I heard, this had been painted on the shutter to the storehouse with some material that looked like blood. I see. It sure is unsettling.
こんなわけのわかんねえもんを書きたがるのはじいさまだけだろ。まったくどこに行っちまったんだ。とっ捕まえて意味を聞き出してやりたいぜ。
Jessica's voice contained impatience and anger. She hadn't gone so far as to say that grandfather was the culprit, but it looked as though she thought that grandfather definitely knew the culprit's identity. Certainly, if you asked around for the link that bound the Ushiyamiya family and the occult together, 10 out of 10 people would name grandfather. And to a person who knew nothing of the occult, this strange mark would have no meaning. Which meant that this might have been something addressed to grandfather. That's right. The reason to advertise the crime is to show it off to the survivors. In that case, where had grandfather, as the essential recipient of this message, disappeared off to?
こんな図形に何か心当たりはあるかい？
Maria looked at the shape with a serious face. Maybe she was enthusiastic since this was her area of expertise. However, her appearance was that of someone separated from the event at hand, as though this thing hadn't been drawn on the shutter closed around her mother's corpse.
僕の第一印象ではどこか外国の十字章に似たデザインだなって思ったかな。
ああ、確かにこんなデザインや。ということはそのどこぞの国と何か関係があるんか？
その国の十字章はもともと聖地巡礼者を守るための騎士修道士たちの紋章だったそうですな。
つまりこの魔法陣には宗教的な意味があるってことかよ。ますますにちんぷんかんぷんだぜ。
When I looked over at all of them, preparing to jump into the discussion, something shocked me. Oh. Maria was grinning, an eerie expression on her face that defied description. A sort of grin, almost like she was making fun of everyone's ignorance. It was an expression that I wouldn't ever have believed Maria to be capable of making. Oh shit. And then she laughed. An eerie, jarring laugh. even though I was looking at it right in front of my eyes. I really didn't want to accept it as real. Oh shit! Fucking hell! Fucking hell! Fucking hell! Come on! Come on! Fuck you! Fuck you!
全然違うよみんな
Suspicious scent. Or fishy aroma, I think.
こんなの見てわかんないかな
While everyone was scared out of their wits, Maria, alone, kept on cackling happily. After a while, that laugh suddenly and abruptly cut off. But her expression was still like someone completely different from Maria.
これは太陽の7の魔法陣だよ書かれてる文字はヘブライ語貸して
Maria stole the writing materials from the stunned Hideyoshi's hand. She then started drawing another magic circle, effortlessly, right next to the one that Hideyoshi had drawn.
ねこんな図形だったんじゃないかな
そんな図形だった。
マリアすごいなさすが詳しいぜ
Jessica tried to smooth things over by praising Maria. Maybe she wanted to make sure that this was still the Maria who everyone knew so well. But Maria didn't give her any particular response. Maria started fluently writing unfamiliar characters in the corners of the shape. At this sight, the eyes of Uncle Hideyoshi and Dr. Nanjo instantly began to widen.
天地と左右に書かれているのは風化水道を司る天使たちの名カサン、アレル、タリアハド、そしてフォルラクそして斜め四方には4代の統治者たちの名アリエル、セラフ、タルシス、ケルブ合ってる
Even if you are unable to correctly write what you have seen, if you are once again shown something identical, it isn't difficult to state that the two are the same. Asked by Maria whether they matched, Uncle Hideyoshi and Dr. Nanjo nodded over and over again.
間違いない。そうや。確かにこんな文字が書かれとった。なんでこんなん書けるんや。
あと演習部にも文字が書かれておりましたな。
わかってるよ。こうでしょ
Maria began jotting down Hebrew all around the circumference.
旧約聖書の詩編第116編の16節と17節だよ。聖書くらい読んでなきゃ。
I haven't actually. Acting as though knowing this was only common sense, Maria laughed. For a while, everyone, including me, was at a loss for words. After some moments, George and Iki returned to his senses and slowly managed to speak.
すごいね。驚いたよ。それで、この魔法陣にはどんな意味があるんだい？
太陽の力を借りる魔法陣だよ。黄金で描き、護符にして身につけたる者はいかなる牢獄であろうとも束縛から逃れ自由を得られる力を授けられる。
束縛から逃れ自由を得られる。意味深だぜ。
この束縛という意味は何も肉体的なものだけを指さないと解釈されている。だから縛られて牢屋にいる人ばかりに意味があるわけじゃないよ。しがらみや逃れ得ぬ運命など精神的な束縛からの解放も意味してるんだよ。
Okay, I'm gonna say this now. I'm not gonna say any more theories in this video because I said too many theories in this video, but this kind of helps me formulate my Rosa culprit theory if Maria is helping. That's why Maria was not that shocked by her mother's death. And why it's very convenient that Maria is, knowing a little bit as to what's going on without, being at any of the scenes.
しがらみや逃れ得ぬ運命か。これまた意味深だな。
しかしさっぱりわからん。それとあの6人の遺体とどんな関係があるっちゅうんや。束縛からの解放どころか殺された上に倉庫に閉じ込められてたんやで。
別にその6人のために魔法陣が描かれてるわけじゃないね。魔法陣のために6人はそこにいるんでしょ。お気の毒だよ。
どういう意味だい？魔法陣のために6人がいるってのは一体。
Maria lifted up her index finger and waggled it as if she were making fun of us.
それは演習部に書いてるよ。読めないかな。詩編第116編16節と17節。読んであげるよ。主は私の枷を解かれました。私はあなたに感謝の生贄を捧げ、主の皆を呼ぶでしょう。ね
って何を言ってるのかさっぱりだぜ。
生贄だってのか。
If the part that Ria had just read aloud was the vital part of the magic circle, then it was saying that the benefit of this magic circle required sacrifices to be offered in exchange. So inside the storehouse, where the magic circle had been drawn, the sacrifices had been offered. It looked like everyone else had slowly arrived at the same conclusion. Some were shocked, others spat out, "They're insane!" as they punched their knees. This was starting to become a seriously disturbing story. And we couldn't accept it, nor understand it. I don't care what kind of magic circles or courses other people believe in. That's their right, and I won't pick a fight with them. But did they really kill Dad and the rest as sacrifice of some bullshit like that? I couldn't just stand that feeling. I'd rather still be disgusted over all that talk about around the inheritance. As I started getting pissed off with a feeling between anger and sadness, I broke from the circle everyone was in and returned once again to the window. Something had gone insane since yesterday. That letter from the witch, Beatrice, that Maria had read aloud at last night's dinner. I feel like ever since that point, this whole mansion and this whole island have begun to be drawn into some kind of peculiar world. That's right. When I think back on it, that letter was an invitation for the witch. The ruler of the nighttime island had invited us inhabitants of the day into another world. with the phone and the radio interrupted, and the island shut off by the typhoon. You could now call it another world cut off from the real one. Yes, on this island right now, it is perfectly normal for witches to send letters, and for sacrifices to be offered to magic circles. So what will happen next? Will some weird people wearing goat masks start doing the bonfire? I'm gonna read that, I'm sorry. So what will happen next? Will some weird people wearing goat masks start doing the Bon Festival dance or something? That's no good. That's no good. I don't get it. Then the inside of my head's all screwed up. And I don't even know what to think. Anger, sadness, the opposing emotions all swirled up together, and they started to suck me in. Unable to resist, I could do nothing but cover my eyes with my hands and entrust my mind and body to the spiral swallowing me. As I started losing heart, I began to recall a distant memory. It was from when I was very young. I had unfortunately seen a scary occult movie on TV, and for a while, I hadn't even been able to go to the bathroom by myself. Talk about bathroom. This would be a good moment to muster up the courage and go to the restroom myself. I'll be back in a second, everyone. I finished off a water bottle, so... I hit my line. Come on. That old bastard had given me an exaggerated laugh and said this.
なあバトラ、どうして悪魔だのオカルトだのってのをわざわざこうして映画にすると思う？ねえからだよ。そんな滑稽なもんは地球のどこにもねえのさ。ねえからわざわざ見たくて作るんだよ。だから俺はオカルト映画なんてちゃんちゃらおかしくて笑っちまうってんだ。俺に言わせりゃ悪魔やら妖怪やらより今年度の収支報告や機嫌を悪くした女房の方が1億倍も怖えってもんだぜ。
Do you know anything about angry wives, Rudolf?
さらに言うぜ。俺に言わせりゃな。怖がるってのは心と生活にゆとりのある連中の娯楽的感情なのさ。暇でしょうがないから連中は変わった感情で心を遊ばせたくて悪魔だのオカルトだのって文化を作り出したんだよ。
Seriously, why have I been acting so damn thick-headed? I was totally taken in. Core. To hell with that shit. This is the human world. As if I give a crap about witches, demons, magic circles, and sacrifices. The human who killed Dad and everyone else is still on this island. That's all there is, right? Next to start speaking to my heart was Kirie-san.
チェスや将棋ってね、終盤の終盤、詰めの最後の段階に入れば入るほど最善手は限られてくるのよ。だから自分が追い詰めている、あるいは追い詰められているというその時、両者の手は限りなく読みやすくなるのよ。
Holy fuck, this is an awesome song.
つまり完全に追い詰められて打つ手なしって思ったその時こそ最も読みやすい瞬間なのよ。でも守勢に立った人間はどうしても考えが固くなって相手の手を読むことにまで考えが至らない。そういう時はね、チェス盤をひっくり返すの。
With all my strength, I slapped my face with both hands. Now, my eyes were truly opened. When you don't understand anything, and you're completely cornered just like I am now, isn't that the perfect time to flip over the chessboard? With us put on the defensive, we couldn't even guess at the culprit's scheme. If you flipped it over and looked at it the other way, just how far could you see? First off, at the time the murders were committed by the culprits, they knew that the island was cut off by the typhoon. So, they should have understood that even if they carried out the murders, they wouldn't be able to get away until the next morning. In short, the culprit had begun without securing a way to escape. Furthermore, the bastard had even tossed the corpses in the storehouse, while doing the courtesy of telling us they are here with that weird graffiti. In other words, since we would probably find the corpses sooner or later, they wanted to show us them. If we had all been dim and hadn't noticed the sword shed, perhaps the culprit's goal would not have been achieved. If you think about it this way, that murdering maniac, since this morning, he must have been watching our every move with bated breath. After all, if we hadn't been so kind as to discover what was on the storehouse, all of that hard work and preparation that they had done last night would have gone poof. What did the culprit want to make us feel by showing us the corpses in the storehouse? All 6 of the bodies had their faces noticeably destroyed. A grudge? A warning? The defacement of the bodies had occurred after death. So, it had been the means by which the culprit had murdered. It didn't mean anything to those who had been killed. It had meaning to those who discovered it. The culprit wanted to show them to us. Look how brutally I killed them! Ha! After thinking this way, I really want to tell that asshole to stop taking me so lightly. Who would dance to that tune? If I'm told, please be scared, I'm not just going to say, really, sure thing. When someone tells the great Ushemiya Battler entrance this way, I'm the kind of guy who will start wanting to sneak in through the window. The next thing that had concerned me was the attempt at a magic circle on the shutter. It was a genuine magic circle, declared authentic by even Maria, who had demonstrated that her knowledge of the occult rivaled grandfathers. They must have drawn that thing in pitch black darkness while holding an umbrella in one hand. And it must have had taken them a lot of time. That's a formidable amount of hard work and attention to detail. What purpose would have been worth all that effort? If something related to the occult happened in this mansion, most likely, we would all automatically suspect the involvement of Grandfather. Did they want to make us think Grandfather was involved? But if that was all they wanted, they could have just drawn any old scribble that looked like a magic circle. It wasn't like any of us amateurs could tell the difference between genuine and fake. However, this magic circle was genuine, and furthermore, it had even been written in Hebrew. So this magic circle had a message that could only be understood by someone with knowledge of the occult. Messages are a form of communication. You send them and hope for a reaction from the other party. Reaction? For some reason, you couldn't find Grandfather now. I don't know how Grandfather could have managed to see the magic circle on the shutter, but had he chosen to hide himself in a reaction to that sign? No. Was it a trap to make us suspect Grandfather's involvement? You could read it either way. Damn, that's annoying. What kind of reaction was the culprit hoping to get out of us by showing this intimidation of the occult? Somehow, that felt like the culprit's weak point. A section of Beatrice's letter that Maria had read aloud during last night's dinner sprang back into my mind. The part that said, "I ask that you enjoy your battle of wits." Sounds like fun. This is a battle of wits between us and the witch. Which will be first? Us being swallowed up by your occult games? Or me revealing for who you are? There's a whole day until the typhoon passes. Why not enjoy ourselves? I finally noticed that the inside of the parlor had gone quiet again. Everyone had sunk into their favorite sofas, some deep in thought, some irritated, some depressed. Maria was once again enjoying the television as if she had never left it. It looks like she found the commercials more fun than the boring program, and she happily yelled, "Ooh!" and giggled. I stared at each person's appearance in turn. If there isn't a 19th person, the culprit must be in this room. Right now, Aunt Natsuhi was searching the mansion with servants, though, wasn't she? Then it shouldn't be in this room. In this mansion, is what we should say. After all, there was also the possibility that Aunt Natsuhi was behind this, and we still couldn't deny that one of the servants could be the killer. Anyone could be the bad guy. Still, Aunt Natsuhi and the rest sure are slow. Of course, it's not a small mansion, but isn't this taking a little too long just to walk around, checking the windows and doors? Just as I thought that, Aunt Natsuhi and the rest returned. Not one of them was missing, but our relief was short-lived. Everyone looked at Aunt Natsuhi, shocked. The talk I had with Auntie Eva started to creep back into my mind. The possibility that the culprits had enough in numbers, or weapons, to kill all of those 6 at once. Oh shit! Scar on the score. Oh shit. Because that thing in Aunt Natsuhi's hand was a rifle. At a glance, its silhouette looked a lot like a hunting gun. But it was unusually short, and kind of looked like a kid-sized gun. However, it had a thickness to it which revealed that this was definitely not some kid's toy.
それは金蔵さんの銃ですな。
ご存知でしたか？そうです。お父様の古いコレクションの中にあったことを思い出し、探し出してきました。
ひゅー、すっげえ。夏日おばさん、それ本物なんすか？
ええ、本物です。実弾を発砲できますよ。昔お父様は野鳥を追い払うのに使ったりしていました。
Skate, skate, motherfucker! I'm sorry. I can only think of Kinzo like running outside, shooting a gun up in the air.
あら懐かしい。どこから出てきたんやら。 私がいくら触らせてって言っても指一本触れさせてくれなかったやつよ。
へえ、じいさまこんなの持ってたんですか。知らなかったですよ。
お父様は昔西部劇にどっぷり使ってたことがあってね。あの世代はこういうライフル銃が大好きなのよ。
結構年季の入った銃のようですね。でもこんな短い仕様のは初めて見ました。
ああ、思い出したわ、その銃。懐かしいな。昔好きやった映画のガンマンが派手にぶっ放しとったやつだわ。
I really want to see this gun in real life for some reason. I really want to see this gun.
お父さんも渋いな。
親方様がだいぶ昔に。ご覧の通り実銃ですので、どうかこの件はご内密にお願いいたします。
手に入れられたばかりの頃は大層気に入られておりまして、撃つより薬莢を出す動作が面白いらしくて、裏の森でいろいろとかっこつけて遊んでおられたもんですよ。
しかし物騒ね。そんなものまで持ち出しちゃうのかしら。
万が一に備えてです。族はおそらく一人ではないでしょう。しかも主人たちを6人も殺した恐ろしい相手です。私には主人に代わって皆さんを明日まで守る義務がありますので。
As Natsuhi-san said this, she slumped down into one of the sofas and took a deep breath. As well as checking the doors and windows, she had also been trying to find grandfather. Since grandfather was not with her, apparently his whereabouts were still unknown.
屋敷内の戸締まりは厳重に確認してきました。ですが万が一ということもあります。みんななるべくここに一緒にいた方がいいでしょう。
そうね。ここに全員が集まって相互監視をしている方が安心だわ。
Ava is definitely suspecting Natsuhi. I mean, Natsuhi could be the culprit, but I'm having doubts about Natsuhi culprit. Though that probably will be the culprit as revealed later on in this game series. Natsuhi's probably going to be the revealed culprit. But for now, I am not thinking Natsuhi's the culprit. I might be wrong. But I'm going to go with Natsuhi's not the culprit.
それはどういう意味ですか、エヴァさん。
別に夏日姉さんの意見に賛成しただけよ。
There was a dangerous atmosphere between the two of them. If you thought about who stood to gain the most from the inheritance problem standpoint, Auntie Ava was the most obvious answer. However, there was no proof that Aunt Natsuhi was innocent. No. If you view Beatrice's letter as grandfather's elaborate prank, and think of this incident as just an extension of that, there was more than enough evidence to doubt even grandfather. Aunt Natsuhi thought that the criminal was on the outside, but Auntie Ava thought the criminal was on the inside. In short, it was the question of whether or not a 19th person exists. Oh my god. It was the doubt that had been repeated endlessly since last night's dinner, with the letter from the witch who called herself Beatrice. So, the culprit among us. So was the culprit among us, or not? And did the witch Beatrice exist, or not? If you assume that something as stupid as a witch couldn't exist, it was the same as saying that one of these relatives here, who shared a common bloodline, was the culprit. If you didn't like that, it would be much more comfortable to simply accept the fairy tale about the witch. Did a witch do it? Draw that weird magic circle and sacrifice those people? If I could only accept that rubbish, I would be able to completely trust everyone in this room. However, damn common sense got in the way. It kept repeating that witches don't exist. In that case, the culprit was among us. In the middle of the seemingly endless rain, none of us could break our silence. Glass shatter. There we go! Oh my god. I'm gonna need, before I do the ending stuff for this video, oh wow. 1 o'clock. Before I do the occult. That's nice. That's nice. That's nice. We're on a chapter called Occult. Well, before I officially end this video, I'm gonna go ahead and change the batteries on my camera real quick before I do the ending stuff. Alright, so, before I do anything else, I might as well look at the, Grimoire, see if anything was added. No. Nothing was added to the Grimoire, so, wait, was there anything added to the, character sheet? Hold up, I need to see the character sheet real quick. I forgot I had it on Goda. So, Grandpa's missing. Nothing has changed about Natsuhi's profile, so the characters who are still alive, none of their profiles have changed, so alright. Alright. How about just in case. No. None of their profiles have changed. Okay. Alright, that's good. Also, I just now realized I just realized one of the kanji in her name. It slightly looks like, you know, one of the crosses that was on that magic circle. I may be being an idiot right here, but that kanji right there, that could be a reference to her knowledge in the occult. Though I could be a dumbass right now and mistranslating a kanji. I could be mistranslating kanji, but you know that I mean, I think that kanji can be, you know, kind of played around with in writing. So, the kanji right there, that might be a little bit of a reference to the occult. I'm not 100% sure. I don't know too much about kanji in elementary Japanese, so kanji is going to take me a while to figure out. But yeah, I know that sometimes writers in Japan do use special things with the kanji of their writing to, you know, do a little bit of a, you know, foreshadowing joke, or maybe even what am I trying to say? Maybe even a Easter egg? Yeah, Easter egg. And Maria's name, that could be an Easter egg or an important plot point in the story because of that little symbol in the kanji of her name. Though of course I might be being a dumbass right now and I'm completely mistranslating a kanji. But no, I feel like that kanji has importance. I feel like that kanji in her name has some importance, so I could be a complete dumbass right now. Call me out in the comments if I'm being a complete dumbass. Anyways, let's go ahead and get to the epitaph and the letter. And you know what? I'm going to start off with the letter today. I mean, to end this video. I'm going to start off with the letter to end this video. Welcome to Rokkenjima, ladies and gentlemen of the Ushiyamiya family. I am Beatrice, the alchemist for this family, under the employ of Kinzo-sama. I have served him for many years in accordance with our contract, but today, Kinzo-sama has announced the termination of that contract. Therefore, I ask that you acknowledge my resignation from the position of family alchemist as of today. And now, there is one part of the contract that I must explain to you all. I, Beatrice, lent Kinzo-sama a vast quantity of gold under certain terms. One of these terms specifies that all the gold is to be returned to me upon the termination of the contract. Furthermore, I am to receive everything of the Ushiyamiya family as interest. After hearing this, you may feel as though Kinzo-sama has been savagely ruthless. However, Kinzo-sama did append a special clause to the contract so that you would have a chance to preserve your wealth and honor. If, and only if, that special clause is fulfilled, I will lose my rights to the gold and the interest for all eternity. Special clause! Beatrice has the right to collect the gold and accumulate interest upon the termination of the contract. However, if someone is able to discover the hidden gold of this contract, Beatrice must abandon these rights for all time. The collection of the interest will proceed shortly, but if any one of you fulfills the terms of the special clause, I shall return everything, including the portion that has already been collected. Furthermore, as the first step in this collection of Kinzo-sama's death, I have taken possession of the Uchiha family head's ring, which signifies the passage of the Uchiha family headship from one individual to another. I ask that you confirm this for yourselves by examining the imprint on the wax seal. Kinzo-sama has already publicly displayed the location of the hidden gold within the epitaph under my portrait. The rules apply equally to all who can read the epitaph. If you discover the gold, I shall return everything to you. Tonight, I ask that you enjoy your battle of wits with Kinzo-sama to the fullest. I sincerely pray that this night will be both intellectual and elegant. Beatrice the Golden. And now, the epitaph. Behold the sweet fish river running through my beloved home of old. You who seek the golden land, follow its path downstream in search of the key. As you travel down it, you will see a village. In that village, look for the shore the two speak of. There, the key to the golden land sleeps. You who laid hand upon the key must journey as follows to the golden land. On the first twilight, sacrifice the 6 chosen by the key. On the second twilight, those who remain shall tear apart the 2 who are close. On the third twilight, those who remain shall praise my noble name. On the fourth twilight, gouge the head and kill. On the fifth twilight, gouge the chest and kill. On the sixth twilight, gouge the stomach and kill. On the seventh twilight, gouge the knee and kill. On the eighth twilight, gouge the leg and kill. On the ninth twilight, the witch revives, and none shall be left alive. On the 10th twilight, the journey ends, and you shall reach the home of the gold. The witch shall praise the wise and bestow 4 treasures. 1 shall be all the gold land's gold. 1 resurrects all the dead people's souls. 1 even revives all the love they possessed. And 1 for the witch to eternally rest. Rest in peace, my beloved witch, Beatrice. Oh man. By the end of episode 1, I could, repeat that on a whim without even needing to have the tips even up. Thank you everybody for watching this video. Leave a like, leave a comment, and I will see you all next time. I'll see you all next time. Do it with me, Kyubey. Mikhail!
Okay.